Good day, everyone. I am Shizami Bedal from SW104G1 under Mr. January Flores. And now I am going to report the Interpsychic theory by Alfred Adler. Who is Alfred Adler? Alfred Adler was an Austrian medical actor, psychotherapist, and the founder of school individual psychology. He was born in Vienna on February 7, 1870. When he was a little child, he suffered rickets, a vitamin D deficiency characterized by softening of the bones that typically resulting in bow legs. At early age, he wished to become a physician. He was an average student in his school, but he became a top student, especially in mathematics. And to fulfill his childhood ambition, he studied medicine at the University of Vienna, but he graduated with no better than a mediocre academic record. Freud invited him to join the Vienna Psychoanalytic Society and became the president of the society. After he resigned in the Psychoanalytic Society, he and his followers formed a group formerly called a Society of Free Psychoanalytic Research and soon changed the name of his organization to Society for Individual Psychology. And in 1937, he died to a heart attack while on a lecture tour in Scotland. And now I am going to explain the individual psychology or interpsychic theory. Alfred Adler adapted the interpsychic theory to explain human behavior, and he used the term individual psychology for a reason that it focused on the uniqueness of individual persons. According to Adler, each individual is primarily a social being. Our personalities are shaped by our unique social environments and interactions. Individual psychology presents an optimistic view of people while resting heavily on the notion of social interest, a feeling of oneness with all humankind. And it developed out of the effort to understand that mysterious creative power of life and that power which expresses itself in the desire to develop, strive, achieve, and even to compensate for defeats in one direction by striving for success in another. The source of human striving is the inferiority feelings, which are always present as a motivating force in behavior. It is the normal condition of all people, and because of that, it is not a sign of weakness or abnormality. Individual growth results from compensation. Throughout our lives, we are driven by the need to overcome this sense of inferiority and to strive for increasingly higher levels of development. Inferiority begins in infancy, a small and helpless infant, and are totally dependent on adults. A child that unable to compensate for his or her feelings of inferiority can lead to a development of inferiority complex. If a person have a condition of inferiority complex, they are unable to cope with the demands of life, have a poor opinion of themselves, and they feel helpless. If a person are given to boasting, vanity, self-centeredness, and a tendency to denigrate others, they have a condition called superiority complex, a condition that develops when a person overcompensates for normal inferiority feelings. The urge toward perfection or completion that motivates each of us are called striving for superiority. It is not an attempt to be better than everyone else, nor it is an arrogant or an inflated opinion of our abilities and accomplishments. Adler described his notion of striving for superiority as the fundamental fact of life. Fictional finalism, the notion that fictional ideas guide our behavior as we strive toward a complete or whole state of being. Alfred Adler believed that our goals are fictional or imagined ideals that cannot be tested against reality. We live our lives around ideals such as the belief that all people are created equal or that all people are basically good. His life goal was to conquer death, and his way of striving for that goal was to become a physician. The style of life. We develop a unique pattern of characteristics, behaviors, and habits, which Adler called a distinctive character or style of life. Everything we do is shaped and defined by our unique style of life that determines which aspects of our environment we attend to or ignore and what attitudes we hold. Adler proposed the 4 basic styles of life. The number 1 is the dominant type or rolling type. It is a style of life that have a little social awareness despite of a dominant or rolling attitude. Just like a person behaves without regard for others. The more extreme of this type attack others and become sadists, delinquents, or sociopaths, while the less virulent become alcoholics, drug addicts, or suicides. The second basic style of life is the getting type. It is the most common type according to Adler. It expects to receive satisfaction from other people and so becomes dependent on them. The third one is the avoiding type. This type makes no attempt to face his life problem. By avoiding difficulties, the person avoids any possibility of failure. These 3 types are not prepared to cope with the problems of everyday life. They are unable to cooperate with other people, and the clash between their style of life and the real world results in abnormal behavior. They lack what Adler came to call social interest. The fourth and last basic style of life is the socially useful type. This type cooperates with others and acts in accordance with their needs. Such persons cope with the problems within a well-developed framework of social interest. According to Adler, we are in control of our fate, not victims. But now, we find that the style of life is determined by social relationships in the early years and subject to little change after that. And he resolved the dilemma by proposing a concept he described as the creative power of the self. Social interest can be defined as an attitude of relatedness with humanity in general as well as an empathy for each member of the human community. Our innate potential to cooperate with other people to achieve personal and societal goals. One of Adler's most enduring contributions is the idea that birth order is a major social influence in childhood. Even though siblings have the same parents and live in the same house, they don't have identical social environment. Adler wrote about 4 situations. Number 1 is the firstborn child. Firstborn children are in a unique and enviable situation. Usually, the parents are happy at the birth of the first child and devote considerable time and attention. They typically receive their parents' instant and undivided attention. Firstborns have a happy, secure existence until the second-born child appears. Adler believed that firstborns also take an unusual interest in maintaining order and authority, and he also believed that neurotics, perverts, and criminals were often firstborns. The number 2 situation is the second-born child. They are the one who cause such upheaval in the lives of firstborns, and they are also in a unique situation. They never experience the powerful position once occupied by the firstborns. The second child always has the example of the older child's behavior as a model, a threat, or a source of competition. The number 3 situation is the youngest child. They never face the shock of dethronement by another child and often become the pet of the family, particularly if the siblings are more than a few years older. Lastborn are often high achievers in whatever work they undertake as adults. The fourth and the last one situation is the only child. They never lose the position of primacy and power they hold in the family, and they remain the focus and center of attention. They are likely to experience difficulties when they find that in areas of life outside the home, they are not the center of attention. Only children often mature early and manifest adult behaviors and attitudes. Aside from that, only children have learned either to share nor to compete. And that's the end of my report. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something from it. Have a good day and stay safe.